All in favor? All opposed? We're out of executive session. Call the meeting to order. Now the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Hey, welcome to everybody. Got a full schedule tonight, so we're going to start with Karen.
So I am giving you an update now that we've had a good full year. It was made mention that you would like to know the holiday numbers. Tanya did a lot of the coordinating for the Thanksgiving baskets, the Christmas baskets, and the toy program. And it was a huge help that she was able to do that. So the Thanksgiving baskets, we handed out 125. Christmas baskets, we handed out 145. For Christmas families, she broke it down so that we know that there were 15 families that only asked for toys. There were 8 families that asked for only coats and boots, and then 40 families that asked for all toys and coats and boots. So 146 children were served through the toy program. And in our community navigation, according to our charity tracker, there were 300, and this is give or take just because of variables, but there were 356 assistance records, 103 households, and 172 individuals that were served through community navigation through 2022. And I was able to kind of look at different ways of the reports, just because I wanted to see like what was the biggest need. And what we know already is the housing crisis, homelessness, evictions, disconnects, things like that would cause, could be a threat to homelessness. There were 38 families that we served. And when I say that, it means how could we refer out to agencies that could support those families? So 38 families. I don't know how many in those families to give a total number for that. 37 food coordination, and that would include connecting to Healthy Lincoln County's food connector, food vouchers, prepared meals, coordinating with the churches, things like that when they did the prepared meals, and Kiev, who does the prepared meals as well. We gave 18 children new backpacks filled with school supplies. There were 42 connections to supports to utility resources, heat resources, and a lot of those were just recent in November, the end of November into December. And we actually have a pretty neat collaboration that's happening now that we're all working together, meaning Community Energy Fund, CHIP, us, and then KVCAP, so that we're all kind of doing it in sequence instead of never knowing who's serving what. We've been communicating a lot together so that we have a system like Brittany asked that they have an appointment with KVCAP, so it's more sustainable down the road instead of they get 3 different assists stacked up and then they have nothing when March or April comes. So that's been working out really well. We have made several connections with the McKinney-Vento liaison that's in the schools. There were 11 kiddos that we've collaboratively worked together for, and that was mostly for clothing. Our free clothing store has met all of those needs for us. And then, of course, Sources of Strength is a mental health program that we've brought into Madomic Valley in collaboration with NAMI Maine and the teachers, the staff. There's 5 staff that have been trained there. So 30 peer leaders are now advocating for mental health awareness in the high school. And actually tomorrow they are presenting at all their homerooms, and they've been practicing how to do this presentation, and it's really cool to watch them because it's really student led. Us advisors just help them in their planning and how to do that, and how to communicate with the principal, and how to make requests to make an announcement over the loudspeaker and stuff like that. We scholarship some children in summer camp, art and cooking classes at the Y. Our Madomic tennis players competed at the Y for a mental health NAMI night. We've been able to collaborate with legislature, law enforcement, hospital, and adult protective services for some really tough cases to really streamline our funds, whereas almost like a misuse of our resources, our ambulance, law enforcement. So we've been able to actually go to a higher level and get people talking together at the same table, which has been really nice for some really difficult cases that we've seen. And what I said, we've strengthened the relationship around the heating assistance resources.
On that last example you gave, Karen Ann, do you run into confidentiality issues at all, and how do you deal with those?
So I have releases that I have clients sign, and oftentimes that communication is really transparent with that. Otherwise, we don't give names. We talk about a generic case. What if? And that gets taken care of. But that's very that's taken very seriously amongst everyone. Yeah, that's a good question.
Thank you.
Anything else? Go to the next thing because I'm on the agenda next. So if you remember, I can't remember if it was last month or no, October maybe, we had talked about the maximums in our amounts that got adjusted with general assistance. There is also 2 spots in your packet that are changed, and we just need to adopt that, and we need to get all of your signatures so that Pam can file it with the state. We didn't get that last time, but this came up as well, so we're just going to do it all together. There's a section, it didn't number, but we've marked it. There's a section in here that makes it, it requires pursuing a lawful process to apply for immigration relief, taking reasonable, and so the accountability means taking reasonable and good faith steps to apply for immigration relief within 12 months of arrival to the United States with U.S. citizenship and immigration services, or before an immigration judge or federal court. So it just means basically they have to be actively pursuing their citizenship. So that's an added piece in there that they've run into because of the influx of immigrants. And then the other piece is under recovery residences. Beginning July 1st, 2022, housing assistance will not be provided to a person residing in a recovery residence that has not been certified in accordance with 5 MRS 20000522. You think I put my glasses on?
Karen,
Yep,
Karen, we need to open the public hearing before we go too much further, okay?
okay,
Once we
sorry.
get to that. Could I have a motion, please?
So moved.
I'd second the motion.
Okay, during discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Go ahead.
Thank you, Dan. Except that the person may receive housing assistance while residing in an uncertified recovery residence for one 30-day period only. The administrator will inform the person of the requirements and time limits regarding recovery residences. A person who is ineligible for housing assistance under this subsection may remain eligible to receive GA for other basic necessities. So it's basically an accountability piece of making sure that if they're getting assistance, they're actually in the certified recovery residence.
And these are not our rules, these are coming down from the state.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask a question? I'm just wondering how many people you deal with who fall under this state ordinance?
The immigration?
No,
or
no,
the-
just generally speaking.
in general? You know, that's a good question. I have yet to need to ask for general assistance
Really?
because of the community navigation piece.
Okay.
There's always a connection. I had a caseworker, case manager reach out today and ask for an application. And I said, sure, here's the link. What are your needs? And within an hour, a rent payment has been secured. So,
And you hadn't,
because there's resources
Didn't need
available,
recourse
it's
to
just
this at all.
understanding where they are and what they are.
Aside from the fact that she literally saves lives. And I do think that the program has moved the needle in a positive direction on poverty and the needs of our residents. That's the one unseen piece of the reduction in the request for general assistance is the fact that we have the community navigator. So if you think about the number she gave you, that's typically in the given times that we're in, that would have been typically run through in some form, some portion of them through the general assistance program.
Any other questions? Pam, you have the signature page, right? That they can,
It's right in here.
perfect. We won't miss it.
could I ask just one more
Of
question?
course.
Part of the general assistance deals with rent, and I know we haven't had need to have recourse to this because you're here. But is it worth, they talk about a rent survey and they've set rent limits for certain apartment sizes or house sizes based on the number of bedrooms and so forth. And they give us the flexibility to amend their numbers based on our rent survey that we undertake. And I don't know that we've ever done that or had a need to do that.
I don't think we've had the need to do it.
Okay.
I think if the need arises, then we can do it.
Thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Is there a motion to close public hearing?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
During discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, under adjustments to the agenda.
I have a couple.
Get to act on it.
Do we need to?
We need to act on the ordinance.
Okay. Need a motion to act on the general assistance ordinance.
I'd move we approve it as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
During discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay. Okay, for adjustments, did you want to?
Well, since we have the John Daigle here tonight, he comes with two other items, and I, even though they're new business, you might want to just put them under old business. Because that way he'll be at the end of the meeting altogether. And one is the purchase of a 300 F-350 F-350 pickup, and also a vehicle maintenance agreement that he may want to talk about tonight. And the third would be the interstate septic system contract renewal. Those three items can just be added, I would assume.
Under old business.
Well, since John is here, and he'll already be up at the podium.
Oh, okay.
Would you like a motion, Mr. Chairman?
Please,
I'd make the motion to add those three items to the old business part of the agenda.
is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Citizen comments? Sir.
Seth Hall, resident, small businessman. I assume that word may have gotten around about the incident in town on the evening of January 4th by now. A number of individual residences, property, and businesses were pretty substantially impacted, which was extremely responsive and helpful. My business was one of them. We have a local resident who's apparently a drug addict given to our building, and about $9,200 worth of damage. Destroyed a bunch of computers, printers, tore the whole place up, ripped all the plants out. This is the Buck Tesla Annex at 251 Jefferson. Fortunately, we have tenants there working quite late. None of them were disturbed. They heard some noise and they let me know after the fact that I guess the only reason I mentioned it is not so much because my business is affected, but so many businesses in town were affected, and people, mailboxes were ripped off. It's been subsequently learned, I hear from the police, that this individual did some kind of damage at the Sproul block, which I think may not be closed with a locked door as well. I don't know what you guys or we, the town, can do about it, but this guy comes from a group of people who have extremely long records of malfeasance and nuisance and so forth, aggravated criminal behavior, or mischief, they call it. Doing many, many thousands of dollars worth of damage. And I just wonder if there's something we can't help do. This particular individual has suffered some medical problems and is, in a colloquial way, I'm told, has the sort of cognizance of a small child, 8 or 10 years old, something like that. Probably doesn't even know what he's doing. We just unloaded all the video surveillance for the police department from our multiple video cameras, and it's clear that this guy wasn't a malicious person, but he's just doing wanton destruction, just craziness. I just bring it up because I think you all should be aware of it. I don't know what we can do about it. It's a chronic problem in this town, as you unfortunately know. We have a lot of drug abuse in this town. I don't know. It's really unfortunate. And there must be something we can do to help these people, as opposed to throw them in jail. This fellow apparently is a good candidate for jail because he'd be probably in danger in jail. So it's a tough spot. I don't know if the community coordinator has any ability to bring resources to bear either.
Did you call law enforcement that night?
We didn't know until the next morning.
Oh,
The next morning early, at 8 o'clock, we woke up and came to
well, you
work.
mentioned that he had a drug problem.
Yes.
That's alleged, right?
That's alleged, but
Yeah.
it's a record. They know the individual, and I was told today by the police department that the names in the papers. The fellow's name is Sean Brewer, lives down on Magtown Road, 55 Magtown Road. He has a very, very long history of trouble. And apparently he had some serious medical problems due to an accident and maybe brain damage now.
How old is he? I'm not familiar.
I think I was told he's around 40-ish.
I don't think this is
Yeah, the details are, it's just.
I just think this is a bad road to go down in a
Yeah.
public meeting.
Yeah, forget the individual. I'm just, it's a chronic problem. And, you know, there are a number of us who are small businessmen. You can't just drop a lot of money like this. Your insurance risk goes up. It's bad for everybody.
I wish Karen Ann had been here, but Karen Ann does have resources and she's had incredible,
Problem is getting them in here to do that.
yeah,
Yeah,
she's had
that's
incredible
where we've had
resources. But I will
problems.
say too that Karen Ann works with both our EMS and our police department. And so she is available for them as a resource.
We've gone above and beyond trying to get people to do it. You can't force them to come in. I mean, we've had many people that we've asked to come in and see her and they just flat out refuse.
Yeah.
That's not, we can only do so much.
Yes, it's a difficult problem, no question. Thank you.
Any other citizen comments? Is there anybody on the computer and look or Zoom? No.
Oh,
Okay.
nice.
All right, we'll move to select board comments.
Are you looking at me, sir? Okay. There are a couple of things we've talked about in some of our committee meetings that I just wanted to bring up sort of as the go-between between the committee and the board and the public. There is hopefully a broadband planning grant possibly in the works. We're asking for a timeline for when that could possibly happen. It's a planning grant, that's all it is. And it would be looking at options for the town to consider, if feasible, to determine whether or not makes sense to bring more fiber optic cable into the town. And that's, I guess you're working on the budget, Julie, so hard.
Yes, we're working on the
So,
budget.
I know
Department
that's-
heads are working on their budgets. I'm working on the budget.
Yeah, I know that's coming down the pike.
Eg's working on the budget.
The Economic Development Committee brought up an interesting question, and they were talking about the housing shortage. And we were wondering whether anybody could shed some light on whether there is a housing shortage in Waldoboro. I think there is. People have been having a hard time finding places. People who want to move here and accept a job here have been having a hard time finding places. But is there any indication that that is easing up a bit? And if not, what can we do to help address it?
So, Karen Ann, and sits on the Lincoln County Housing Coalition. So we get regular updates from her. We've met with the Homeless Coalition and leaders from there about finding acceptable rentals. And there's always a place to rent, it seems like. It's just, you want to be there. So it's not just a matter of, I think you have to look at it like, so some of the issues we had when we were hiring
Right.
through the police department, I've told the story before where we had 2 people from out of state, was finding a large enough rental and finding a rental that was acceptable to them. Then you have people who need rentals that may not have the funding for it. So it's not just, are there rentals? There are rentals available, but a lot of times cost impacts that, size impacts that. So if you would like, what I could do is we could invite members of those groups to come and meet with you. They have some really amazing ideas. One involves tiny houses.
Right.
And Max and I had a meeting with this group, and I think I gave them a really good idea. They're pursuing it. So that's interesting. you might be hearing more about that in the near future. I know they're talking to several places in town. But it's a complicated issue because, you know, you see housing available, but does that fit the need of what the people are looking for? So I'd be more than happy to bring somebody in who can talk about it more eloquently than I.
I think the members of the committee would really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
But the short answer is yes, there's a housing shortage.
Yep.
Whether it be rentals or the ability to, and that's the other thing you're finding is the ability for a family starting out or somebody starting out to be able to afford homes. It's the affordable part.
That's all I've got.
Evan? Jan?
Well, I'm on the 250th anniversary committee. We had a meeting last night and I was just really pleased to hear about how our community, how supportive and generous they've been to us honoring our town. The businesses that have been so generous are announced on the 250th anniversary Facebook page, which is shared by, I believe it's What's New Waldeboro Facebook page. I see that sometimes. And so it's nice to say thank you to a business for supporting the town. It looks like it's going to be a really large and festive event, some really exciting things going on. Lots of people are included. We had Lincoln County, what are they?
Television.
LCTV here last night, and they came up with some really nice ideas, I thought, about honoring some of the historical buildings, places, events, and people in town in some ways to do that. So I'm really looking forward to that. I'm excited about that. I think it's good for our community. And I'd also like to announce that my 17th grandchild is being born, I think, as we speak.
Wow.
So when I get home, I'll find out more details. That's always exciting.
I don't have anything tonight.
Okay. All right, Julie, town managers report.
I received 2 items of correspondence, and one was from the Waldo Theater thanking the select board and the budget committee and the town of Waldeboro for their appropriation of $6,500 for 2022. The board, staff, volunteers, vendors, and performing artists are grateful for the support that makes the program possible. I have to say that I was there for a Gordon Lightfoot concert. It wasn't Gordon Lightfoot, but he did all the songs, and the Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald was really good. So that's just such a lovely organization to have in town and open. And the next one was a thank you to all of the town employees. Thank you so much for the great Christmas tree float and for all you do for all of us in Waldeboro. What a great town we live in because of all of your hard work. And that was a thank you from Debbie and Peter Laughlin. And I have to say that that was the most loved post. We made the newspaper, we made the news. Friends of mine saw it in Iowa. So I thought that was just a great thing. And I, again, have to say thank you to the amazing Public Works Department. The greatest testament to that tree and the Public Works Department's work was it survived the storm and lit up that night. So that was quite the event. And as Bob mentioned, we are starting on our famous budget. The budget calendar I should put out tomorrow. The staff was just checking it, making sure that I didn't make any mistakes in it. And that's what we'll be taking front and center. Lots of fun. Lots of hard decisions this time. Guys are going to be presented in the budget committee, I think, with some interesting proposals from the departments and public requests, the organization requests. So, and we've got a lot of projects that we're going to have to prioritize. So should be interesting. Lots of fun.
Could I just add something?
Sure.
I want to give kudos to our town manager because of the way she gets people involved, and especially the department's heads. I've been doing this for a while, and the change over time has become very, very noticeable. They are engaged. Their ideas are welcomed. They are discussed. We get involved. The budget committee gets involved. It's a very inclusive process. And I really appreciate that. Thank you.
You're welcome. I make John smile. It makes me happy.
Anything else, Julie?
No,
Okay, then we move on to the consent calendar. Just a note, under 9.2.1 warrants, add number 28 to that list there. And with that, is there a motion to approve the consent calendar?
I'd make that motion.
Second. Second, is there any discussion? All in favor of the motion, all opposed, motion carried. Okay, a new business contract with Northern Lights for CDL drug testing.
so as you know, we've had a drug testing program for many years here in Waldeboro. And we wanted to change it a little bit. We wanted to have a bigger sample to be compliant. So we're changing our protocol, and we also have to change our provider because our current provider can only do the testing in a larger pool. So we're only getting like one test per year. And we would like to have more tests because obviously with our safety program, that falls into it. And MMA is hopefully going to make this a priority.
They've been talking about it.
I'm sure they will.
You stimulated.
I did. I stimulated the conversation. I'm sure I did. Anyway, they recommended I contact Northern Light. They're going to provide us with a new policy and training. And they will also test at least half of our employee pool at least twice a year. And it could be quarterly if we wanted to. So I would recommend that we sign the memorandum of agreement with Northern Light. I did call other communities who had them. They have found them to be wonderful. They will also come and do the testing here if we do not want to send employees there. But that would be an additional cost. But everybody I talk to who uses them says they're very easy to deal with and spoke very highly of them. And again, our previous provider just can't handle more volume.
Sir,
Is any of this covered by insurance?
No,
That's what I thought.
but we are implementing we've always had a safety program,
Yeah.
but I don't know if, well, you're probably aware, because you spend a lot of time at the MMA. We are going to save about $8,000 on our insurance bill because we actually have a safety program in effect already. So we're ahead of many towns.
Yep.
So the cost for this is minimal, but it will be made up in savings. And that's something that when our representative from MMA comes down, we'll let him know that we're implementing this program. And it also includes, if we have any questions about, employee assistance programs, any type of issues that we might run into, they have the training, they have the expertise, and they're only a phone call away.
okay,
Do you want a motion, Mr. Chairman?
I just need a motion for me to sign the
Yeah, I'd make that motion.
memorandum of agreement.
okay, is there a second? Second. Is there any discussion? Not proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Okay, 10.2, use of tax increment financing funds. Max, could you address that?
Everyone. All right, tonight. I have two things to talk about regarding the town's tax increment financing district and program. For those, just a reminder, the town voted to approve this back in June of 2019, and the state authorized it in March of 2020, just before COVID, weirdly enough. The program helps shelter increase in values of 2% of Waldeboro's properties in town, so that it doesn't impact the county taxes and it doesn't impact how much is lost in subsidies for the school and municipal revenue sharing. So after the revaluation, I think about $2 million was sheltered from that value, so that was a bit of a big change. And with that 2 million, that's resulted in about $61,000 in funds that go into this program. So now that there's actually money in the pot, I just wanted to have a established type of program and policy for using those funds without going to a bond. So the way a TIF uses these funds, if the town has to go and get a bond to use the money, like a big project that's going to cost 5 years worth of the TIF, you'd have to go to the public to get a vote for approval. That's what we did back in June for the Worcester parking lot. But what this policy would do is aim at a procedure. We're doing small ticket items like a $400 project or a $5,000 project, something that doesn't require having to go out to the voters and ask to get a bond for these funds. The town does not have to have a policy like this, but it's usually good to have something in writing, just so, you know, if everyone in this room's gone in 5 years or 10 years, then there's still a precedence for what to use to get these funds out. What the policy and the name change and the title can be changed to whatever we'd like. The policy establishes procedure for a public hearing to be held by the select board. And after the public hearing is held, the select board will determine if they believe that the proposed project meets the statute and the project list. And then if the select board is unanimous in holding a vote, they would then hold a vote within 60 days of the presentation. And to have something presented to the select board, it either has to be recommended by a board or committee in the town of Waldeboro saying it's no, which is a public discussion by that committee saying how it does tie into the statute and they have to present it. Or if we're pressed for time, I could come out and make a recommendation of the select board instead to sort of bypass that. Which I don't tend to use that often. So after a recommendation is presented to the select board, a public hearing would be required. A notice would have to be sent in a mid-coast paper, likely the Lincoln County News. And it'd have to be at least a cycle before the select board meeting. A notice would have to be publicly visible in the town office. And then you just have to make sure it's on the agenda. And that's about it. The policy also includes an annual report that will be done at the end of each fiscal year by myself, just saying how much is in the TIF, a recap of all the projects that were approved, so how much money was spent, and just how much was left. And how much was saved through the municipal revenue sharing, education subsidies, and county taxes.
I'm assuming other towns use this very similar structure.
Some towns choose not to even have a policy.
But some towns do.
Yes, yes.
What's in our TIF fund right now? How much?
I believe about 61,000. And that's mainly because of the revaluation and American United. So next year, Friendship Street School is going to be included in that. And maybe 80 Gray, I think. I don't know. Depends what happens by March 31st.
And nobody's applied for it. Sorry.
Sorry, go ahead.
Nobody's applied for any infrastructure or anything like that towards it.
No people applying for infrastructure.
Well, if they was doing, you know, any infrastructure, that would go towards infrastructure, correct?
Yes, this would go towards infrastructure.
Right,
The
but
only-
nobody's applied for any business or anything that's expanding or anything like that.
Oh, I think you're talking about a credit enhancement, and this does not have that.
Oh, okay.
That's usually a controversial topic that people don't like to have, so I leave it out unless it's amended late.
Okay.
I just want to point out that Max has done a lot of work on this and the EDC has reviewed it with him. And it's been massaged and added to and with thanks. It's a great program. It's one that the town is going to benefit a great deal
Do we
from.
vote on this policy?
Yes.
Use of tax increment financing funds policy, I guess it's a matter of having the policy in place. I don't know the exact process you want for approving it.
Typically for a policy, they would just vote to approve it.
I would think so. I'd move we approve the policy as presented.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? If not, proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
And the second part of the TIF is I am looking to amend it. There were some projects that were included around the time we were actually getting it approved back in 2019 and 2020. And especially with how things have changed in the last few years, I just wanted to include about 6 projects. I think everyone was presented a few pages that show what we currently have. And then the last 2 pages show the projects that will be included. Just going to the list, the first one would be demolition, alteration, remodeling, repair, or reconstruction of municipally owned structures which are in the TIF district. This is mostly focused because there was a long time of what happens with 80 Gray and some rehabilitation. So this is just in the future, if we ever come across that similar situation, the town has a property that is in the TIF district. There's arguments over rehabilitation or demolition. We can use the funds in the future for that. The second one is hiring professional services for designing site work for projects to expand public infrastructure within the TIF district. So again, this is similar to the project I recommended back in 2021, where the parcel that's on Route 1 at the 235 intersection, this would have just allowed the town to expand the public infrastructure onto that parcel itself and get engineering designs for it done. The next project was public safety improvements to areas along public roads with notable vehicular crashes. This was aimed more for the DOT Village Partnership Program and just the high crash areas that are in Waldeboro. To have it just in case. Next, costs associated with childcare and or adult care facilities. This was something that was included during COVID era, and I think it is something important to have. I am including the adult care facility in there because I know that if my dad, who volunteers at Respite all the time, heard that I was doing this and took out adult care, he would probably give me a talking to. Next was enhancements to the Madomic watershed to protect water quality and wildlife dependent on ecosystem. This is another new one, I believe, and focuses, as it says, just improving the water quality in the Madomic. This seems to be the town really wants to make sure is top notch in the area.
So would that include like septic systems or water sampling, or what does that actually? I think that should be a little bit of a definition of that.
Yeah, so, oh no, you go ahead.
It's some of it would revolve around like alewives and the sea Run Brown. Did you see Ron Brown? Also, the actual addressing the sources of pollution, so non-source pollution, and I would say septic systems would go in it. There's already the replacement program, like the one we just applied for down in Back Cove.
Yeah.
But if you'll recall, when we did the watershed, I can't think of.
Management plan.
Thank you. The watershed management plan. We could have used funding for that as our match.
Yeah.
from
Instead of
this
the
for our
Shellfish
match. Instead of the Shellfish Committee.
Well, and then last year we did the ALY fish counter
Yep.
purchase with the grant, so this would have been an eligible item.
Yep.
And also some culverts that inhibit the passage for ALYs or,
And see Ron Brown.
yep, see Ron Brown.
No, I didn't see Ron Brown.
So that's the main focus of that one, just improving water quality to help with some commercial development as well as,
But it does address sources of pollution specifically. So it's in-
So it doesn't talk about sampling or anything. It should have something in there for sampling, because how are you gonna know that there's pollution source without sampling?
I'd read that to mean it's implied. I don't think you can
Well-
determine that pollution exists unless you sample.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I could include some language if that would make it better.
Yeah.
And then the last-
Because it may not be, it may be from, say, the high tide mark in the river north. You know, and the Shellfish Committee's always picked up that tab, and if this would help alleviate that, and it would help us reduce the source of spending money, you know, up there, we could use it.
And
down
if
below.
we needed to actually do the DNA sampling, that would be a good use of funds.
And
That's
that's,
expensive.
because that is expensive.
All right, I will include that and I'll have to check with the state that sampling would be an acceptable one.
Yep.
Then the last two associated expenses with expansion of broadband service to unserved residential and commercial areas. Originally, this was only focused on just commercial expansion, so the state's kind of changed it to allow residential expansion as well. Bob mentioned earlier looking into planning grants. So if down the road, the town does decide they want to do it, these funds could help with doing that project. Then the last project is associated expansion with for municipal water and sewer to support housing projects aimed at affordable workforce housing. Again, that's a new one. Usually you'd have to get a completely separate TIF program to focus on housing only projects, but they decided to include that one in there, so I thought it'd be nice to include it. And I was actually going to include another one about purchasing public safety equipment. That's something that some towns do use their TIF funds for. Some towns use it for like a fire truck purchase. I'm not thinking of fire truck purchase. I kind of don't want a fire truck purchase, but this be more small 4-digit equipment purchases like like Paul always talked about the self-contained breathing apparatuses. So if one ever fails, this would just be an option. Or like Justin's right now having me try and get some grant money to get a drone to help with law enforcement as well as work on the Medallion River. So this would have been an eligible project as well. So those are the items I'm including. Right now, I do want to amend the TIF and try and put it on the June warrant. So I've just given the project list. If there's any suggestions or updates that the select board would want to consider, I did run it by the EDC, and I think it all pretty much, there weren't really any more changes beyond that. There were some other ones, but the state said it wouldn't be eligible. So that's about it. I'd have to get a public hearing set around April or May, and that's about it. And other amendments would be done, but more to come later. Tonight, I just need to focus on the projects because I'll have a meeting in about 5 minutes. A separate meeting, don't worry.
do you want a consensus of the board tonight based on your conversation and the 2 additions or changes you would like to make to this? Or
If there's time and the board is fine giving me some thoughts.
I just move we express our agreement with what he's done and encourage the testing on the river and the safety equipment item that he's mentioned as being additions to the schedule.
Add those to the amendments.
Yes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion? If not, proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried.
All set then. Thank you.
Okay, next, Shellfish Committee application, Zach Melvin. Would you like to?
No, you.
Doc, okay. About a week ago, we received an application from Zachary Melvin to join the Shellfish Committee. And wow, what an impressive young man. I hadn't met him before. I don't think I've ever seen him before, but this young man is absolutely incredible. And he's from Waldoboro. He's got a degree. He taught in the school for around, schools for around 8 years and decided that he wanted a little change. And so now he'd like to get involved in the process. And we had a great discussion. We asked questions. He provided a lot of interesting and informative answers. And so in that regard, I would sure approve his addition to the Shellfish.
I'd second that motion.
Okay, is there any discussion?
I just liked his first line.
The one about his father?
That's
That was one and I'm not quite sure what the answer is. But I thought it was really funny.
funny.
Any other discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? Motion carried. Somebody go ahead and contact him and make sure he's in so that he can be at the next meeting. Okay. Under old business, ordinance to regulate traffic town of Waldeboro.
If you will recall, we had the John Daigle at our last meeting in December to talk about snow parking. So we did a lot of research, found out that you, the select board, can vote to amend this. We don't have to put it on anything. We're not put it on a town warrant. And basically the changes are that the Public Works Department shall issue a snow clearing order whenever the Public Works Director or Assistant Public Works Director determines that such an order is appropriate for the safe and orderly plowing and subsequent removal of snow and ice. That the snow clearing order shall be issued with as much advance notice to the public as practicable under the circumstances and shall remain in effect until canceled by the Public Works Director or the Assistant Public Works Director. And the snow removal, notwithstanding the provisions above, no person shall stop, stand, or park or allow to remain in a vehicle in or upon any public way as defined. And it gives the MRSA site during any hour of the day so as to interfere with or hinder the removal of snow by the town. Any vehicle found to be parked in violation of this subsection may be removed and placed in a suitable parking place in accordance with the procedures described in 29A MRSA 2069. And during the duration of the snow cleaning order, vehicles may park in the Coon parking lot located at 870 Main Street in Waldeboro and or any public parking area that the town of Waldeboro has designated as public parking. So, well, may designate within the snow clearing order, I'm sorry. So that's what the change is, and that gives the Director of Public Works and the Assistant Director of Public Works the authority to declare the snow order.
So we don't have to throw the 5-inch rule in there then?
Because it could be, and it was brought up after the fact, it could be like an ice situation where you really need to get the salt down. Mhm. So that was different.
I just had one other question to ask. You know, every time I go to the post office and I want to park along the curb, the white lines there are so darn close to the curb that I can't fit my truck in there. Okay, I just don't want to get ticketed someday because I have parked quote unquote improperly. I know that's the state, right? Yeah,
State road.
That's the state.
got it.
But they've been notified about it. They realized that, of course, we didn't do much for painting downtown because they were down there working.
Thanks, John.
We did have a meeting with Dave Allen about that, and John did explain to him that where the center of the road is.
I had a question, just interested there, in front of the, oh, what is it called now? It's a insurance place, the bakery there, Sammy
Sprague's.
Cohen's office, that,
Allstate?
yes, I think that's what it, farm or something.
State Farm.
Yeah, that
I'm
one.
sorry, State Farm.
Anyway, in front of that building
Right.
on the corner of Main and Jefferson Street there. They were going to make that a no parking, that the one on the corner.
Yes,
Okay, is that gonna happen at some point? Because I noticed
that will be.
that next year also.
It'll be happening next year.
Okay.
And if we do the downtown improvements that
Oh,
we're applying for
right,
through the
yeah,
grant.
yeah.
The parking will be, that will be significantly impacted by whatever is designed for that
Yeah,
area.
that's good, because that's, you simply can't see. No. Thank you.
A motion to approve.
On the ordinance to regulate traffic down in Waldeboro.
I move that we accept this as written.
Second. Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? All opposed? Okay, there's one abstention on that for the record. Okay. Agenda items for next.
Oh, we have John's rest of
Oh,
his
on the
adjustments.
pickup.
All kinds of things he has
Oh,
here.
John,
John is
jump
just,
up there.
Come up to the lectern, please.
You always wanted to say that. didn't
Well,
you?
can we
You're
do the
waiting all
easy
night.
one quick first? Is the interstate septic systems, the septic waste disposal facility agreement. It's 2,300.
23, pretty good. About the same price it's been for the last
Mhm.
forever.
Is there, nothing's changed on it then?
Nothing's changed on it. Guys, who called off somewhere, that's where it's gonna go.
We do this every year.
We do this every
I'll
year.
make that motion to accept the interstate septic agreement.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
You
Motion
abstain.
carried. One abstention.
Okay. Next thing is the agreement within the different towns. As you're aware, my mechanic, he's pretty good mechanic. You can say quite a bit on each one. So this is an agreement, because we worked on town equipment before, so I do remember some things. And this would be an agreement between the department heads. And these are some of the guidelines that we going by. You're all set with this, right, Bob? Oh, yeah.
That part about terminating the employment has been changed. Thank you.
So, well, I guess my question is, from the discussions the select board have had and stuff like this, is these other departments paying your department for this
Yes.
mechanic?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, I know that was discussed and how that would work, and, because that affects your budget as well.
It does. It
So-
does.
Okay, good. And it's gonna save all the way around, because
It is. It is.
he's already on call, already on
He already is.
the payroll.
And this, breaks it down even further. I had a few issues, which I'll deal with the departments, some tools required, pretty much department specific. And so I don't want the other departments paying for it. It's not fair, I want to treat this fair. But something, this is where it starts. Right here.
They'll bring it up to the town garage.
Yes.
Yeah, I think it's gonna save us a huge amount of money.
Yeah.
There you
Yeah,
go.
it's already.
And it's not gonna sit over to
Yes.
either Hillside or somewhere else for 2 or 3 days before you get it back.
Right.
Not saying that that's, but if you need it, you need it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It can't sit.
So it's already worked.
It's-
It's worked on the fire trucks. Paul was happy with it.
Yep.
He hasn't seen the bill yet, though.
But it's gonna be a lot cheaper than he would if he had to take it to Portland or wherever.
Yeah, between quarter to half is what we charge compared to what these other places charge. So. So this is what we're looking at.
Cool.
We just need,
I'd move acceptance of the interdepartmental agreement.
I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded, the interdepartment agreement. Is there any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed? One abstention. Motion carried. One abstention.
Next thing is this is a pickup. Which we really need. A couple years ago, Abden drew up the garage, and the spare truck, which I was the only one driving it, had issues. And I pretty much condemned it. I do miss that spare truck because we do break down with the other small trucks. We have spare big trucks for the other routes, but not for the small routes. And also, we're trying to solve priority. It seems to be working. We've got so many areas of town where the temperature is different, surface temperature is different. And the guys don't know this. The guys can't see the material. I don't have computers in the trucks. So they're trying the best of their ability. What I've run into is like north end of town, we're running 600 pounds a mile. So the south of town, by Thompson's Hill down, we've been able to run 300 pounds a mile. Doesn't sound like much, but you turn around, a tractor trailer truck is sold, costs almost $3,000 now. We go to a tractor and a half load was storm. So we really do have to pay attention to this. That's why the state pickups always following the drivers, checking in on them, telling them, what to do, whatnot. So looking for a truck to do that, looking for a truck also. I want a work truck. I don't want a little truck. I want something I can put a plow on it. Also hit transfer station. We're not contracted any of that stuff out. We're one of the few towns that's still doing that. And the reason we're not, the park and ride and all that, it's like a transfer station, probably $11,000 to $12,000 just for plowing. That's would be the cost, Town office, it'd be even more. It's 24 hours. These little gas stations are paying 14 to 16,000 just for plowing snow. That's what that contract is. So I still refuse to do it. I'd rather we take it on. This would be a plus for that. This would also be a plus for us to go get material when we need it. We've used the shellfish truck. Some of the stuff that we need to get, we need a rail truck, a bigger truck to hold it. Because the other.
But you're gonna buy a Ford, right?
Yeah.
That's what say.
Yeah.
Say it's either way.
you need the long bed is what you're saying.
Yeah,
not the
yeah,
short bed.
long bed, something that'll hold 2,000 pounds. So that's the reason why I'm looking at 350.
Now, what are you thinking about putting a plow on it?
I'm gonna put a school plow on it.
Would you have like a Fisher,
Yes.
like a 9.5 foot Fisher?
9.5.
So you, if it breaks down, you can run right to on the road and get it fixed?
Yep. Yep.
And it'd be a lot cheaper than a
Yes.
big with a wing and everything.
Well, the other problem is our highway plows are built for the highway.
Right.
And we have a hard time with them little plows that we have to do dirt roads.
Right, I understand that.
They keep, especially when it's off. This one here, it's a Fisher. Traffic will take it. That's what That's what we're looking at anyways.
A lot more
All around,
maneuverable too.
Yeah,
A lot more maneuverable too.
yes.
Are you're doing the V plow?
Yeah. I haven't got the price on that yet.
A lot cheaper than your other 110.
Yes.
It'd be a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
About $8,000 probably.
Yeah.
8,500.
Yeah, I think so. The other thing, I called around looking for a truck. That's similar to the last one. Yeah. People have, them, they hate to part with them. Most of the prices, we've run into 65, 63, 70, 72. Turned around and matter of fact, Will talked to these guys, the great one. And he got the price down. The guy took $5,000 off the price. So truck price, actual price that was the 63. Trying around 63, so we'll get that talked to him. Come in at 58.
So the state leftover truck that fell through. that
They have not gotten any
They
yet.
haven't gotten any yet.
They have not gotten
Because
any. And we did not have a
We was
commit.
working on that
Yeah.
when we
We
bought the
working
new
on
shellfish
that.
truck. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I thought we was gonna get one.
There hasn't been one that's come in.
Okay.
We're
And I
first
would've-
we were first in line,
Good. I was just checking.
and we did try
Yep.
to use them,
Yep.
that same dealer for this, but this
Yep.
was what we found and got the best price. Technically, you got $5,001.
Yep.
That's what
Oh,
the,
he's good.
yeah, that's what the gentleman told me.
So. And I do have money for it.
Mhm.
Capital, I think, to a little bit over 200,000. And that's money for it.
It's capital in equipment, not in
Yeah.
anything else.
So. That's what I'm after.
You didn't give us any prices or anything, at quote or anything.
Yeah, it's $58,344.
Oh, plus the plow. I mean,
Not the plow.
right, no, plus the plow.
I gotta get the plow, yeah.
So
This is-
58, 66, so you're saying 70,000, up to 70,000?
Possibly.
So you're looking for an authorization up to 70.
Yeah, let's try that.
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? If not, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor? All opposed?
Good. I guess the only one thing I have is, do you charge the transfer station for plowing up there? Some of that should come out of your budget, go into your budget
We,
for plowing it?
I do. I don't.
And that's why I was asking.
I don't charge the going rate,
No, I understand that,
you
but,
know, but we do.
okay.
Yeah, some
What about
of
this?
that
What
was
about-
equipment,
The town office.
But I don't. We get Julie, we're all set.
That's right. I'll put a plow on the shellfish truck. I could bring my plow in.
We got hills.
I know. If it was a flat land, you'd let me do it. If there wasn't a hill out front, you would let me plow. I know it.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next, agenda items for next meeting. Have anything?
We want to continue the discussion we had in executive session today.
Do you want John Daigle back for that, or would you like to keep him tonight for 15 minutes real quick? What?
I'd like, no, I'm not talking about John.
No, I know, but I didn't know. if you-
Sorry, it's gone right over my head.
I don't know.
You know what I meant. Does anybody want to stay for 15 minutes for executive session? Real quick?
Sterling.
Okay. You just have to use the same site that you used earlier for
Okay,
the
do we
personnel.
want to
matter.
adjourn?
All right,
this?
let's adjourn this
Yeah.
meeting. Yeah, is there a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
My hand was up. If I could make a request for agenda. There's an agenda I missed, I believe, on the consent calendar of the December 13th meeting that I've written to you about. board about, and I would appreciate being on the agenda with your regular scheduled meeting. Discuss that correspondence that's missed.
Yeah, I haven't seen that yet.
The letter was dropped off today.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, that's why I bring it up tonight.
I got my mail. Oh, after the meeting started?
No, it's happening.
All right.
We gotta vote.
Just have to vote on the motion
Okay,
to adjourn into
You gotta-
executive.
Yeah, we gotta-
all those in favor of adjourning the meeting, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right.
So.
No official action will be taken after.
After the executive
After the
session.
executive
No,
session.
okay. Yeah, so I
Mind
move, we
saying,
can,
John?
I move we convene an executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA 4056A to discuss a personnel matter.
Is there a second?
Second.